Well, here you are, back again for another episode of the Opt-in Podcast. I am fired up for today's topic, and it came from such a very strange place. I know that I say that a lot of the time, but this one, very seriously, came from a very random thought, and I immediately said, I gotta hop in here and talk to all these people about exactly what is going on in my brain. So last week, we had our quarterly session where I do my quarter in review, and I share with you the goals that I set, what happened, how I had to pivot, where I didn't achieve what I wanted to achieve, and what I'm going to be doing next. We spend 45 minutes and I dive deep into exactly how it went down. I break it down for you and I tell you the lessons that I learned. And generally, we move on from that. It being the end of June when I recorded that, things were a little bit different because I spend a good amount of time at the end of June thinking about the second half of the year. I don't do this every quarter when I reflect. I'm usually head down and just running for the next 12 weeks. But in this period of time, so I guess twice a year I do it, I stop and I collect my thoughts. I evaluate where I started, where I am, and where I want to get to by the end of the year. And I reset my priorities, my focus, and my energy so that I can move in the right direction. What that looked like for me is that this past weekend, I sat down and I really said, what's going to come up for me in the next 6 months? What do I need to lay the groundwork now for? What do I need to think about? What do I need to plan for? And where do I want to be when I close out the year? What do I want that headline to be when I come back here and I record my last podcast of the year and I share with all of you how the year went? This has been an amazingly transformational year for me, and it's just 6 months in. So what can I achieve now that I've learned all of these things in 6 months? And I spent a good chunk of time this weekend figuring exactly that out. As a manifesting generator, I tend to want to do all of the things simultaneously. And usually what that looks like is I start a bunch of things and then half or more stop, because after 2 or 3 days, they're not quite as fun and as exciting as I thought they were going to be. And then I boil it down to just the priorities and what I needed to do. I know this about myself. And so I took a longer period of time to daily check in and say, this is what I was excited about on Friday. Am I still excited about it today? Oh, the list got a little bit shorter. Oh, let's add this to the list. And so by the time Monday rolled around, I was really clear on the 3 focus areas for my second half. And surprisingly, something I hadn't been focusing on for almost a year came back into the picture. Shocking, right? Well, it's because things have started to quiet down in some other avenues, and it's opened up room for me to have capacity to work on other things. That's the beauty of spending time evaluating where you have been and where you are going and what you're capable of. And so I'm bringing this podcast to you this week because it's a good time for all of you to learn this technique. It's a good time for all of you to spend a few days really considering what you want your back half of the year to look like. Now, I'm going to talk to you about goal setting today through the lens of what we should and should not be doing. This is going to be a big old rundown of do's and don'ts, specifically when you're standing in the middle of a year. When you're at the halfway point of anything that you're trying to do. It doesn't even have to be mid-year goals in a professional setting. It can be the halfway point between when you started and where you want to end on a really big, massive goal. Be it changing your health, be it training for a marathon, be it making decisions around your family planning or remodeling your house, or you fill in the blank. Anytime you're halfway through something, a project, a year, a change, it's a good time to stop and pause and take stock and evaluate the first half. Did I do it the way I wanted to do it? Did I get the results I wanted? Was it fast enough? Was it with the right level of quality? How am I feeling about the entire experience? And then move on to the second half with so much more thoughtfulness because you've learned so much. So with that in mind, we're going to talk about mid-year goal setting. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that we make professionally, collectively, all of us, whether you're managing people or you're managing yourself or you're somewhere in between, we ignore mid-year check-ins and goal setting. We fundamentally do. Inside of corporate settings, goal setting has become a check in a box. There's this prescribed approach that HR gives you. You follow the SMART method. You create however many goals they wanted. You do this. They're trickling down and they're coming from the bottom. And there's this whole activity and process around it. You use the technology that they've given you. Depending on the company, you may even hang them in your cubicle. And then you're done. And you go back to getting your coffee at 10 in the morning and taking lunch at 12:30 and leaving at 5. And you get to the end of the year and you think, oh, dang it, I wrote all those things down and I didn't actually work on them. Or you know darn well that you have goals that you set at the beginning of the year, and you know darn well that there's some work that needs to be done to either ensure that you achieve them or to revise them so they can become achievable, and you just don't want to do it. You don't want to have the conversation with yourself. You don't want to have the conversation with your manager. You're anxious about how that might go. Are you going to look like a failure? Are you going to look like an overachiever? Are they going to pile more work on you if you've gotten farther along than you planned? There are so many reasons that people avoid having the mid-year conversation. For people managers, mostly it's all about not wanting to spend the time. Whether they have 2 people or 20 people reporting to them, they have to sit down and have the meeting. They have to be prepared. They have to think consciously about the performance of their employees. They have to regroup on what their goals and objectives are. They have to help them build a development plan. It's work. So they avoid it. Also, that's a warning sign if that's you, that maybe people management isn't your jam. Because this is my favorite time of year. And right now, I've got 1 employee. So you're all getting the benefit of something that I love to do, that I would double down on. I would do skip level meetings and host long sessions. And we spent so much time when I was on the side of a large corporation focused specifically around nailing it at mid-year so that we could finish the year so strong. So all of you are going to reap the benefits of my experience, my passion around this, and we're going to walk through it today. In the show notes, you're going to find a freebie because this is going to be a long list of do's and don'ts with advice mixed in. And it's going to get overwhelming. So if you're driving, running, walking the dog, heck, sitting on the beach and listening to me, wouldn't that be rad? Don't worry about taking notes. I got you. Download the freebie later. You'll have all of the headlines. And then if you want to come back and listen to this again, you know to pick up around minute 8 when I start getting into the content. And you can jump right into how we break this down. So as we roll into this, I want to just start at the very top. So for those of you that have never set a goal, for those of you that are rusty on goal setting, for those of you that are inside of a company that doesn't prioritize goal setting, the very first thing that I want to talk about is why goals are so important. And the bottom line is in a professional setting, the goals are the measurement tool. So what it means is that you and the person that you report to have sat down and said, this is what you as the employee are going to achieve this year. So it's time bound. This is how we're going to measure it. And these are the components of it that we define so that you know at the end of the year, when they're assessing your performance, it's against what you aligned at the beginning of the year. So goal setting is incredibly important because if you don't set goals, then your performance is subjectively judged. You don't have any control over it. You don't have any way to influence it. You don't have any examples or data to back up that you're delivering the value that you say that you are because there wasn't an expectation set for you. It also helps you as the employee to set expectations with your manager. If they give you a goal that's too big, if they give you a goal that achieving it would mean that you have to work nights and weekends and give up vacations and you don't want to live that life, then it gives you an opportunity to go back and negotiate and say, this is too big. This is too much. We need to right size this so that I can achieve it in the working style that I have available to me. You protect yourself by having goals. It's in your best interest to have goals. It also helps you keep track of progression. For you specifically, it's going to help you determine if you're staying on track with the performance expectations or you're sliding backwards. If you're missing the mark with your goals, if you're failing to achieve them, if you're getting behind on the schedule, you know that something is happening. Do you have a slip in your discipline? Is what you want to do misaligned with what you're being asked to do? Are there extenuating circumstances that are pulling you out of the work environment and taking your capacity? By setting goals, you can track your progress and it can tell you, it can provide data to you around how you're showing up at work. And if you're not showing up in the way that you want to, you can assess it and determine what to do. Now, many people think that goal setting is just a checkbox inside of a corporate setting. And candidly, sometimes it is. There are definitely corporations that run by a big global calendar, and they say that by this date, goals need to be set. By this date, we need to do pay and performance. By this date, we need to do mid-year reviews, and they are just checking boxes. And people managers will actually not make their goals if they're not following the calendar appropriately in the way they want to go. So some of you may actually be living in an environment where it's a checkbox and the humans around you are operating that way. It doesn't mean that you have to operate that way. Just because they are disengaged from the process doesn't mean that you need to be disengaged from the process. Remember, I said that goals protect you in the long run. They help provide very clear and specific expectations around your performance and how it's going to be measured. So while others may not see the importance of goal setting, you do. And by you taking it seriously, by you showing up professionally, by you delivering on your results, you in fact give yourself a leg up. Because for how much ever it feels like you're just checking a box inside of a corporation to get those goals set, there are people in that corporation, there are leaders running that corporation that understand the value of goals, that understand that you need the clarity that goals give you to achieve the result that you want. Because when you write and define goals in the right way, they are tied directly to the vision and mission of the company. You can articulate specifically how what you are doing and how achievement of that goal is going to help the company realize its goals and visions for the year or the quarter or for the next 3 years. It's all tied together when it works well. This is your protection. It's your flak jacket. It's your armor. In the end, it's what's going to help you build a career that you can live inside of for as long as you want. So goals are incredibly important. And what is also, to build upon that, really important for you to understand, especially because we're standing at mid-year, is the type of goals that we have. There are short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. Generally speaking, the goals that are set at the board of director level or in the C-suite are what are considered long-term goals. They're generally setting goals and objectives for 3 to 5 years. If your company's in trouble, maybe it's for the next 1 year to 18 months. But generally speaking, those at the top of the company and the board of directors they're building strategic long-term goals. This is the big play. This is the big game. This is the vision that they see. They may articulate that to you in bits and pieces or in some very grand presentation at all company meeting. And it's going to feel very intangible because long-term goals are not specific. They generally have a measurement and a timeline, but how you get there and how to achieve it isn't defined. And then you have the medium-term goals. And the medium-term goals are born from the long-term goals. These are generally inside of corporate settings, things that can be achieved in a year. Maybe 2 if they're big strategic transformations, and they are more specific than the long-term goals. They speak specifically about a discipline or a program or a transformation or an initiative that is going to occur that's going to help enable the achievement of the long-term goals in the 3 to 5 years. Midterm goals are things that can be completed in a shorter window of time, have more measurements and more specificity. And then the last ones that you have are the short-term goals. These are less than a year. Some of these could be weeks or months. Quarter in review is a good example of that. Setting 12-week goals is a short-term goal. These are incredibly specific. They're almost action statements that define exactly what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, how long it's going to take, and what's going to happen at the end and how it's going to be measured. You are clear about the execution approach. There isn't any research or assumptions that have to be made. You know exactly what you need to do to go from point A to point B. Those are short-term goals. So now you've got to wonder, Melissa, it's mid-year. So what are you asking me to do? Should I be writing a midterm goal? Nope, friend. These are all short-term goals. So you probably started the year with some sort of a midterm goal, something that was going to span the whole year. Very rarely do I see managers let people get away with doing quarterly or half-year goals. I did that. We only set goals for 6 months, and then at mid-year, we started all over again because, let's be clear, corporations are finicky and you could never plan a year in advance. It just wasn't possible. But that's here nor there. Most of you are going to have set midterm goals at the beginning of the year. And now what you need to do is come back at the half year and say, how do I take that midterm goal and write it as a short-term goal to get me through the back half? The short-term goals are what we do when we are doing these quarterly at a glance. So when we're breaking down these midterm goals into 4 bite-sized pieces, what can we do each quarter? Those are the short-term goals. That's where you should be focused because that's where you're going to be executing from. So at mid-year, you're only talking about short-term goals. That's the only play you've got. You've got 6 months or less, depending on vacations and other schedules. I love to break down the year at mid-year because I find it really entertaining when people start to panic. Because if you really think about it, mid-year is July 1. Okay? It's July 1. The entire month of December doesn't exist. Let's just be real clear. It doesn't exist. People are on vacations. There's holidays everywhere. There's parties. Everybody's distracted. December doesn't exist. Half of November doesn't exist. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. You got Thanksgiving. You've got other stuff going on. There's Indian holidays. There's whatever. Like literally half of it. So now you've lost 6 weeks of the year, right? So December doesn't exist and half of November. So we're in the middle of November. So you have July, August, September, October. It's 4 months and a half. Okay. Our 6 months just shortened to 4.5 months. Well, then friends, if you work for a global company, forget the month of August. So those of you in global companies, your 6 months just went to 3.5. If you don't work in a global company and you work in a US company, your 4.5 months probably went somewhere in the range of 4 or a little bit less. So the fact of the matter is that when you're at mid-year, you don't actually have 6 months left to go. Best case scenario, you've got 4. And these 4 are unpredictable because people are taking vacations and they're celebrating holidays and they're in and out and whatever. The first half of the year, nobody takes a vacation. The weather's bad. They just got back from the holidays. Everybody spent all their money on all of their people. They're not going anywhere. The second half of the year, people are all over the place. We are less productive professionally inside of the corporate setting the second half of the year than the first because of this churn. So you need to look at the second half of the year as if you've only got 4 months to go. 4 months. That's a short-term goal. It's a quarter plus 1. That is it. That's it. So what are you going to do? If you haven't achieved your midterm goal, if you haven't gotten to where you want to get to achieve your midterm goal, by now, you got 4 months to go, friend. What are you going to do? How are you going to get there? All right, so let's talk about it. So now it's time to write some short-term goals. Didn't want to scare you all with that, but it is the reality. You have to start looking at these things in realistic terms. Take off the rose-colored glasses and get really practical and tactical right now, this second, about how you're going to end the year strong. You got to be intentional about this if you want to do great things. If you want to have a career that you enjoy, if you want to have work-life balance, you have to be incredibly intentional right now, today, as we are talking in this podcast about how you're going to set those short-term goals and push or jog or walk, depending on the speed and capacity you have, to the end of the year. So the very first thing that you need to do is you need to set effective goals. These short-term goals that we're talking about, they need to be effective. So don't set a vague or overly ambitious goal unless you've got a plan. Now, friends, listen, I break this rule all of the time. I am always too ambitious, and I'm successful because I have a plan. So that goal might be bigger than I plan. That goal might be bigger than somebody would advise. It always, always, always comes with a plan and a backup plan. So if you're going to set something ambitious, which I do not advise you do, then make darn well sure that you have a plan. The next thing is do not set too many goals simultaneously. Don't do it. You're going to get overwhelmed. You're going to drop the balls. You may drop them all and achieve nothing. These are short-term goals. You have 4 months to go. What can you achieve in 4 months? And give yourself some cushion. And then if you surprise yourself and you achieve all sorts of things in 2 months you didn't think you would do, add some more. This is now extra credit, friends. You tell your manager that you're going to achieve 3 goals and you achieve 6 with quality on time by the end of the year. You're a rock star. You tell your manager that you're going to achieve 6 goals by the end of the year and you come running in the door and only have 3 and they're half-baked. You're on a performance plan. So don't set too many goals. Don't be overly ambitious. This is the time to execute with quality and precision so you can measure your results and demonstrate your performance over time. So if those are the things you're not supposed to be doing, how do you set effective goals? It's very simple. The very first thing that you want to do is find things that you are passionate about and align with what you want to do at work. So out of all of the things that you have going on, of all of the midterm goals that you have still left to achieve, prioritize the ones that you're going to enjoy doing the most. You're going to get done with those the fastest, with the highest level of quality. So commit to those in priority order. This thing I love to do the most, so I'm going to do that first. I really love working with Sally, so I'm going to do this one second. And this one I know I can nail because it's just going to be super fun. So that's third. And then you have a whole bunch of other things that maybe you want to do that you'll add to the list as you go. But to be effective, prioritize the fun. Prioritize the things that you want to do that you're going to enjoy. You will get done with them faster. I promise. And then the next thing that you need to do is you need to set clear and specific goals. Write it in a sentence. This is what I will achieve. By when? Be clear. Be specific. Be action and results oriented. Get specific and write it down. And then the other thing that you need to do, even if you're clear and specific, if the goal is big, meaning it's going to take you the 4 or the 6 because you don't believe me about the 4 months that you've got left for the rest of the year, take one and break it up into smaller pieces. When you break it down into smaller, manageable goals, you'll be able to target specifically what you're going to do in July versus August versus September. And as you achieve those mile markers, you can cross them off the list and you can see progress happen. So if for some reason you don't achieve that bigger goal, that overly ambitious goal that you set, you can articulate what you were able to achieve and by when so that you can show progress and how much is really left before you've achieved the goal. The next thing that you need to do when you're setting these goals is, as much as I want you to tell you to go after all of your passion projects and just pick whatever you want to do, the fact of the matter is that when you set your goals, you need to make sure that they're aligned to the company goals. It's very rare that you can go off and set your own sort of goals and visions for your department without any sort of big picture alignment. So the very first thing that I'm going to tell you not to do is don't just set a goal and not spend some time considering how it all ties together. It's a fool's errand to set a goal and actually deliver results along that goal and then be questions later on and not be able to tie it back to what's important to the company. The next thing I'm going to tell you to do, and this one's going to burn for some of you a little bit, is do not set goals purely to achieve external validation. You are not at work to win a trophy. You are not at work to get invited on stage, to get a pat on the back and get a certificate and maybe get some sort of a cash bonus. Cash bonuses are good, but you're not at work for that. You're not at work to be able to go into the family Christmas party and talk about the award that you won because you worked nights and weekends and sacrificed too much. If you are pursuing goals purely to be able to have that external achievement, the statue on your desk, the certificate on your cubicle wall, the bragging rights at your family dinner, you're going to struggle to achieve the goal when it gets hard. When the only thing that you care about with the goal is preserving your ego, you will not be pursuing the result with the best intent possible. This is when I see people make really bad decisions. When ego is at play, when you set a goal because you purely want external validation, when you're looking for some sort of accolade or reward at the end of it, this is when people can destroy their career. It's when they can destroy relationships inside of a company or their credibility, because they will achieve the goal at any means necessary. They'll run over anybody that they need to run over in order to get it. They will sell somebody out. They will fill in the blank, right? These can get really nasty a lot of times. And so when you're setting a goal, you can absolutely say, if I do this, I'm going to get a vacation for me and a plus one. You can definitely say, if I achieve this goal, I get $1,000 in cash. If I achieve this goal, I get whatever. Understand what the rewards are and run for it. Heck yes. But make sure that there's something else in it for you aside from the reward and the recognition and the acknowledgement by your peers. So what do you do instead? So you need to make sure that the goal is tied to the bigger vision of the company, but more importantly, you need to make sure that the goal is tied to your broader purpose in life and the vision of what you want to be doing. So you have to make sure when you're setting a goal that you're going to be doing work that lights you up, that is going to help you advance your career where you want it to advance. It's going to help you get skills that you don't have. Every time you set a goal, anything that you're doing at work, it should be with the betterment in mind. And the betterment can be anything. It can be the better I get at doing this thing, the more likely it is that I'll get a raise next year, which means I'll be able to take my family on more vacations, right? Or the faster I deliver this project, the faster I can put my name in the hat for that promotion, because I can demonstrate that I can lead people. And when I get that promotion, it means that we can go buy the bigger house that we've always wanted. Or it can be that you are setting a goal to help onboard new employees because you really want to move into an HR and mentorship role. And you know that by demonstrating that you can set up a program for people inside of the company, you can actually pivot your career because you've demonstrated you have the skills and aptitude and ability and willingness to learn new skills. So make sure that your goals are connected in some way to your professional goals and aspirations, your personal life goals and aspirations, that it's helping move the needle towards what you really, really, really want in life and business. And then continue to evaluate if your goals align with your values and passions. So as you're going through and you're doing the work, make sure that there doesn't become some misalignment somewhere. You could think that if I deliver this thing really, really well, it's going to show that I'm a top performer and I'm going to get the raise that I want. And then you could realize that what's happening is, in order to deliver it really well, you're sacrificing your nights and your weekends with your friends and your family. And all of a sudden that raise doesn't look as advantageous because you're losing time now. So as you are going along the journey of achieving the goal and working on the goal, one of the things you also need to consider is it worth it? Because it may feel worth it at the beginning before you get started. And then once you're in it, that could change. And it's okay if it does. Evaluate the consequences of not achieving the goal completely, or evaluate the consequences of pivoting, or going back to your manager and saying, I set the goal too big. This is what I need to achieve instead so that I can have the right balance in my life. Just because you set the goal doesn't mean it can't change over time. So make sure that it's serving its purpose for you all the way through. It's okay if it doesn't. We don't know how things are going to play out. We make an assumption, we live our lives through it, and sometimes we decide to get off the ride. Because that goal led us somewhere that we did not want to be. So just make sure you're checking in and you're adjusting and, saying, I'm done with this. I'm going to move on if that's what makes sense for you. And it helps you stay aligned with the vision of life, the life that you have, the vision of your professional career that you have, and that everything still feels really good to you. Now, here's the thing. Goals are supposed to be a little bit difficult. If you're setting goals and knocking them out of the park, you're not setting big enough goals. You're coasting. And there are periods of time when you should be coasting. I advocate wholly for people to coast on a regular basis because sometimes we just all need a break. We just do. What I'm also going to say is that do not let fear, do not let self-doubt, and do not let perfectionism hold you back. Don't hesitate do not avoid setting a goal that scares you just because it scares you. We all grow from failure. We all fall on our face. We all fall off the bike. We get back on and we get better the next time. So absolutely, the goal is misaligned to your vision of your life. If the goal is running you ragged, if it's not what you want to be doing anymore, jump ship. If you're afraid or not certain you can achieve it, or just want to walk away because it's not going to be perfect with the timeline you have, write the damn goal and chase it. You're doing yourself a big, big disservice by walking away. You're going to grow so much in that process. Don't let fear win. The other thing is don't give up when you have a setback, because you're not going to sail through this process just smoothly like this. Nothing is fluid and linear. You get lost along the way. You get a flat tire. You have something come up. Don't give up. Just don't give up. Keep working towards it. Keep going. And if you need to adjust the goal, because friends, you only have 4 months left, then adjust the goal. If you got a flat tire on a road trip and the trip was supposed to take 2 days and it's now going to take 4 because you had to wait for a replacement tire, what do? You adjusted the timeline. You changed the route. That's what you do here also. Don't give up. And as I said earlier with the self-doubt and the fear, you do want to embrace failure. I know that feels counterintuitive, but these goals, no matter how much intentionality you put in setting them, no matter how much you pivot and communicate and adjust and whatever, sometimes we just fail. I've done it. You've done it. Everybody's done it. We're all still alive. And it's a learning opportunity. It teaches you resiliency. It teaches you what to not do the next time. So if it happens, take accountability. Communicate what happened, dust yourself off, and try again. What's the worst thing that can happen? They tell you not to try? Cool, go try something else. And along the way, you don't have to have all of the answers. So go seek help and support from anybody. Ask help from anybody, from mentors, accountability partners, your grander community out there, your network. Go out there. Just ask for help. When we're talking about accountability and support, which is the next pillar, do not rely solely on yourself. We are not motivated 100% of the time, every day. Nobody is. Even the most motivated person you can think of, David Goggins, he will tell you all day long, he is not motivated all of the time. It sucks 99% of the time, yet he still gets up and he does it. So don't rely on yourself for motivation. It's because you're not going to have it all the time. Don't make that mistake. And in that lens, make sure that you are not surrounding yourself with people that are negative and are feeding into your self-doubt. If you have voices back there that are saying, you can't do it, we're not so sure, why are you spending so much time working? How is it really going to help you move things? I don't think you're going in the right direction. Cut it out. Get the voices out of there, whether they're coworkers or their family or your friends or your whoever. Take a break from them. I'm not telling you to sever ties completely. That's on you. And I'm not a mental health professional, so don't take advice from me around how to manage relationships. But what I will say is shut down the noise. Shut it down. You have enough self-doubt for everybody else. You don't need external voices feeding that engine. Just politely ask them to be quiet or to move on until you are done with your goal. Now, in the flip side, when you're not going to be this constant generation of motivation for yourself, what you do need to do is surround yourself by people that will motivate you and lift you up and encourage you. So you need to find a trusted person or group of people that are going to feed into you, that are going to encourage you, that are going to support you, that are going to hold you accountable. So if you're avoiding doing a step in the process because it's the part that sucks and you don't want to do it, but you get to the fun stuff if you just got it done, make sure there are people around you that are going to call you out on it. Because once you get it done, you get to do the fun stuff. And Make sure that you're regularly checking in with your support network, whether it's your manager or it's your peers or it's a mentor, and you are presenting your progress. Make sure that you have a set time and place where you're going to come in on a regular cadence and say, here's how far I've come since the last time we talked. This is what I've achieved. This is what I have left to do. And that person or group of people can help encourage you, help motivate you, help build you up, help you cast off the self-doubt so that you can keep going. Goal setting isn't an individual endeavor. It's a community endeavor. We are most successful when we surround ourselves with like-minded individuals that are helping build us up, help us solve problems, and help us see it through the end. There is a reason that sports teams do not leave the field when they are running laps until the last player has completed. There is a reason that you will see the entire team loop back around and run with the slowest runner after they've completed their workout. It's because you don't finish until the last one finishes. This is the thing. When you set a goal and you have a supportive community around you, then they rally with you. They help you get to the finish line. They stay there mile after mile, and they're cheering you on. You don't have to go this alone. Ask for help, reach out a hand, and support other people along the way. And, as I said, the monitoring progress is one of the next things that you need to do, because this is, if you're not keeping track of where you started, where you went, and where you're going, you're never going to get to where you want to be. You can't just say, I'm going to drive to Mexico from California and get in the car and start driving and not know what direction you need to go, what streets you need to take, when you need to get gas. You're going to have to keep track of your progress and where you're going. Otherwise, you're going to end up in Canada and not Mexico. So do not avoid keeping progress. Don't avoid reviewing and updating your goals. Maybe you did have to take a different route. Maybe it is going to take you longer. Maybe things have changed and you need to make an update. Don't avoid it. Just face it, communicate it, and keep on moving. Don't become fixated on the end result either. That's not going to help you. What you need to be most fixated on is the next right step. The very next right step is the action that you need to take. You complete this one and you do that one. If you continue to do that over and over again, looking up occasionally to make sure that you're still following the path and we're getting to the result that you want, you will achieve the goal. As every sports figure in the land has said, you need to learn to appreciate the journey more than the result. It's the process that's going to light you on fire. It's not the result that you have when you get there. So don't become too fixated on the end. What you really need to do is be worried about right now. And then another thing that you need to do, because we've already talked about tracking your progress, is you need to celebrate regularly. Yes, every single milestone. Every single stinking one. If you break these down into small bite-sized pieces, you have a milestone constantly, and celebrating it gives you the energy and excitement to continue to move forward. It lights your fire and it invites other people in to celebrate with you. It increases motivation and helps you keep moving. And as you're working your way through and you complete a milestone, spend a minute just to reflect on what you learned and what you might need to adjust as you move forward. Learn from where you've been so that you can be better with where you are going. That's all. Very seriously, that's all that it takes. I know that I've just talked for 39 minutes. That's all that it takes to set a goal, to set a mid-year goal, to run it through. There's some things that you need to watch out for, though, as you go through this practice and process that I just want to make sure that as we close out, you keep fresh and in your mind. The very first one is do not set goals based on other people's expectations or comparing yourself to them. Don't set a goal because you think you need to be where Susie's at because she's 2 years younger than you and you haven't received that promotion that she already has. Set your goals based on what you want to achieve, based on what you can do with your capabilities, and based on the direction and vision of your life. Also, please don't beat yourself up about setbacks. Some things are going to happen that are in your control and outside of your control, and likely you're going to get off track once or twice or 3 times. You may even not achieve the goal because something has come up, and it's okay. That's the beauty of life. We get to pick ourselves back up and try again. Sometimes things are better left to others to do, so we start them and hand them off. Don't beat yourself up when this happens. It's just a reality of life and careers. So do what you can do in your control. Set realistic goals that maybe push you a little bit out of your comfort zone and are still very much achievable in the time that you have. Make sure that you're taking consistent action toward achieving those goals. Make sure that they're aligned to the company vision. Make sure that your manager is bought in, included, and agrees. And most importantly, make sure that the goals that you set for yourself, whether they're short-term, midterm, or long-term, are fully aligned with the life that you want to live, because your career is not your life. It is a means to enable your life. It is a means to enable you to live a full and complete life, building the legacy that you've always dreamed of. So make sure when you're setting these goals that it's not at the sacrifice of something else, unless you're willing to sacrifice it. This is an important period of the year. This is a pivotal moment for you to reset, to refocus, and to ensure that your performance is measured at year end based on what you know you can achieve and deliver. So take all of these tips and guidance and spend some time sitting down and thinking about what you can and should and want to achieve by year end. Take a look at what you've already achieved so far and write down those 3 goals that are going to take you from now to the end of the year, that are achievable. Be specific and time-bound. Be realistic in what you set. Talk to your manager, get alignment, find your supportive network, and then run. I know you're going to knock this out of the park. I'm so excited for what you're going to be able to achieve in the second half of the year. And when you've got those goals set, I want you to share those with me in any way that you want. You can send me an email, you can send me a DM, you can hop over to Intentional Career Collective and share with us in the networking community. Let's all honor each other's goals and help each other get there. I know you're capable of this and so much more. I thank you for your time today. And just as a reminder, we are currently accepting founding members into Intentional Career Collective. We are running a founding member rate right now. This is as cheap as it's going to ever get to join this networking community. You get exclusive training that's only available in there. You get access to the catalog as long as you're a member. You have weekly coaching from C-suite mentors, and you have a supportive network inside of the community that will help you provide resources and feedback and exchange ideas all day long. So if you want more information about that, see the link in my bio. Download the freebie from this episode. And if you enjoyed this, please share it with your friends and your family. We all need to set better goals. We all are capable of so very much, and we have a whole half a year left to do it. Remember, friends, that you are wise, you are strong, and you are capable, and I believe in you. Until next time, let's go set some goals.